Hello. Hello. Sorry about that. I'm Michelle Paver, and we are going out live on YouTube and Twitch TV. Links on my website, michellepaver.com/chat. And if you want to take part in live chat while we're on air, you can do that on YouTube. Simply start typing in the live chat area and we'll pick it up, or on Twitter. Go to the hashtag Torak, or use the hashtag Torak, or on Twitch TV, go to the chat room, and that'll be picked up as well. So it's been a couple of months since I did the last one of these. I think it was before Christmas, and I have the usual excuse, which is that I have been working, it happens to be true, I've been working extremely hard at the second of the Wolf Brothers sequels. Of course, the first, Viper's Daughter, comes out at the beginning of April. But I also went away on a research trip. I went to North Norway, right up North Norway, the Northern Cape, because I needed some snow and some darkness and the first tree, all of which I saw. I had a really useful time. Lots of ideas about what's going to happen in the next couple of books. Oh, and I rode the shaggiest Icelandic horse you've ever seen. It was like riding a yeti. He smelt wonderful. He smelt of snow because he'd been sleeping out in the snow. Wonderful. Oh, and before I went to Norway, I did something else, which was great fun, and which I'll tell you about a little bit later in the show. Now, before I answer your questions and read out some of your comments, and we've had some wonderful ones, I just need to tell you something relating to Viper's Daughter, which is rather nice. If you are a Wolf Brother fan, and if you live in Ireland or the UK or Australia, you can get an exclusive Wolf pack. I'm going to have to read this bit out. If you pre-order Viper's Daughter, that's whether in hardback or audio or ebook. And the pack contains a rather nice bookmark, a postcard, and best of all, yes, there it is. Best of all, this rather nice, well, I think it's gorgeous, a Viper's Daughter pin badge. It's the sort that, you sort of hook it and then it pins. Really, really gorgeous. How you do this when you pre-order is you click on the button on my website, read the terms and conditions. They're not very long. I've read them, but you do need to be 16 or over. And then you need to keep your proof of purchase. That's really important. And the deadline is, you need to have done all this if you want to, before publication day, which is the 2nd of April. So you have until a second or a minute before the 2nd of April to do that. So that's just something to think about. It's a really nice pin. I have mine, as you can see. But before, without much ado, we now go on to the questions. Yes, ask Michelle Paver anything. And we've got, first of all, a rather nice group of sort of questions about the ghost stories and Gothic and that sort of thing. Yes, this one, we're starting a book group in Worcestershire. We've chosen Dark Matter for our inaugural book, which is a great idea. Yes, one of your founding members thought it was the most chilling she'd ever read, and talks about a friend who, after reading it, as she recommended, refused to leave her bedroom in the dark without company. I'm so pleased about that. You've asked me if I could suggest a starting point for your first conversation. Well, I've never been part of a book group, so I hope I'm going to do this right. I've got two. You can choose which one you like. The first one is a bit of a basic one, but actually it could lead to some pretty interesting conversations. And the question is the ghost in Dark Matter real, do you think? Or if not, what do you think's going on? Now, some of you may think one thing, some of you may think another. So that's an idea. The other question or starting point is, do you like being frightened when you read a story? And if so, why? So there we are. That's just to get you started. Second comment, lovely comment here from Mike. Having read Dark Matter and Thin Air, I'm hooked. I'm glad of that. Wakenhurst has just arrived. This was a while ago. I'm looking forward to some reading over the Christmas period. Well, I hope you enjoyed it by then, Mike. Keep the ghost stories coming. I will. I fully intend to. George, this is an amazing coincidence, actually, George. I celebrated my 90th birthday going back to Suffolk, where George lived all his childhood and youth. And this is fantastic. Did a tour of Suffolk churches. Amazing thing to do, George. I've just booked myself a few days in Suffolk, and I'm going to do the same thing. One of the churches you went to was Wenneston, and just by chance, you happened to read Wakenhurst from the local library. And it was only when you got to the end that you realised that the hunch that you'd been getting was true, that, yes, it was certainly inspired by, and there's the doom itself. There's me with Satan. Yes, the very doom. Oh, thank you, Elf. That's brilliant. So, yes, what an amazing coincidence that was. And thank you for letting me know. I always love hearing about things like that. Now, here's something from Robertas and Domas. What inspired you to write books? That is such a simple question and such a difficult one to answer. Why did I start writing? I think because I've always loved stories. I've read stories since I could read. My parents always had books around. I read and read and read as a child. So it wasn't surprising that I would start to write. What inspired me were probably all the stories I've ever read. What inspired my particular stories is buried deep in my subconscious, so I'm not really doing a very good job of answering that. Greetings from Finland. Yes, I just saw that flashing up. Thank you. Here's one from several questions, actually, from someone who's keen on writing. Now, I'm not going to be able to answer all of these questions, but let's hold this screen for a bit, if we could. I think I'm going to dodge the first one because I don't know when I'm at my best in my work. I think that's up for the readers. The second one is the challenges. I think probably mostly is finding the time to write, because there's a lot of publicity and other stuff to do. How did you decide to? Oh yes, how did you decide to write about ghosts and the occult, and also for children? I didn't. Stories pick you, really. They sort of come from the subconscious, so it's quite a messy process. Just when you've got a story that you want to write. That's all I can say. But I don't sort of decide, well, this is the kind of genre I'm going to write. It's more, what's the story that attracts me? Number 5, I'll go for, if you had your time again, what would you do differently? When I first read that, I thought, well, nothing to think like that. But I'll tell you one thing, and it's probably going to surprise you. I would look after my back. It's giving me problems at the moment. That's because I've written 20 novels in 20 years. And before then, I had a sedentary job. I was a lawyer. And nobody ever told me about, get up every 45 minutes and walk around and stuff like that. If you're young, this is going to sound like, oh, what do I need to worry about that? But believe me, look after your back if you're trying to write. What incorrect assumptions do people have about being a writer? There's one I can tell you, which might make me seem like a very nasty person, but this is honest. I think some people think that you as a writer will enjoy hearing about other people's amazing writing, if they're, still around. And basically, we don't. We're quite competitive. Just think of it as people who have children don't really like hearing about other people's children getting A grades, in all their A levels. They kind of, they're just more interested in their children. That's something that people generally assume about writers, and they get it wrong. How would you describe someone who is perfect for a writing career? Now, this is what you're really getting at, and there is no set type of person. I think writers are as different as the books that are produced. So, if you've got an interest in stories and you like reading, that's a start. You're only going to find out if you're any good by writing. And you need talent, but you also need commitment. And in terms of, your question about going on courses and things like that, I learnt quite a lot from reading books about writing. So I didn't find courses very useful. Try anything. if you have the time. But above all, it's a question of getting down to it and making a bit of time to write. And that's very difficult if you have a busy job, but if you really want to, you'll find the time. So good luck with that. I'll have to move on now, but best of luck. Now we have a lovely comment. As the rest of them are all about wolves and the Wolf Brother books, rather. We have a lovely comment from Graham, who is wondering if he's an odd man out. You're not. You've just heard about a 90-year-old reader, but when you read that the new Wolf Brother book is coming out, you were delighted. You are not my oldest reader of Wolf Brother. The oldest reader I've met of the Wolf Brother books is 99. So you've got some way to go, Graham. But it's wonderful to hear that you've always been interested in the prehistory of Scandinavia, even worked at the British Museum, amateur archaeologist as well. Such a lovely comment. So thank you for that. I'm absolutely delighted to hear about that. And you are not alone in being a slightly older reader than the core 9 to 12 age group. We go to someone who's, yes, and there we are with lovely comment at the end. David, who is 6 years old, and he's one of my youngest readers. I think you are just about my youngest reader, David. You're reading Oathbreaker. There's a lovely picture of David reading Oathbreaker. Well, maybe you've moved on to Ghost Hunter by now. I don't know. You've said it would be lovely if I could come to your school. David, generally, invitations go to my, and as a general point, if people want to invite me to schools or whatever, please don't do it through this, but go to my publishers, Head of Zeus, and then they'll organise things. But David, thanks so much for that. I'm thrilled that you've been enjoying it. You must be a very bright boy, and I hope you enjoy the other books. Now, Amrita has a question, very simple. What does Torek use for medicine in Wolf Brother? I had to go back to my continuity notes, so I probably missed out a few bits, but I know that, he uses things like cobwebs and beard moss, which is the kind of moss that hangs from trees, to stop bleeding. That works quite well. He uses a herb called yarrow, or I think Ren uses yarrow, which is actually a quite common herb in Europe. It's very good for stopping bleeding, and I think it's quite antiseptic. He also chews willow bark, which is where people get aspirin from as a painkiller. And he also uses earth blood, which is a kind of mineral. It's like a very soft iron oxide, which is to scare away demons and things. Here's a piece of earth blood. This is very soft earth blood, which I got from a cave in the Forest of Dean. And this is so soft that I can actually, wait a minute, I'm going to do this. I'm not doing it terribly well, but I was going to draw a death mark, but I have done it rather badly. But it's sort of reddish. It's reddish brown, and it's been used for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, on cave paintings and things and in Torek's time to scare away demons. So I'll tidy that up and make it. Death marks are rings, but that gives you the idea. Torek keeps his this is like Torek's medicine horn. There's powdered earth blood in there. So that gives you, and now I've made a lovely mess of myself for the rest of the program, but that gives you an idea of the sort of medicines they use in Wolf Brother. Of course, there's lots more in the later books. Ewan has several comments and questions. An old fan, or who's just used to be part of the clan, which was when the original books came out, is wondering whether there's going to be more happening with the clan. I don't know that we're going to be sort of resurrecting the clan as such, but obviously once Viper's Daughter comes out, there will be much more activity generally. I'm not sure that I don't think we'll be having forums as such. It gets rather complicated these days, but watch the next show. I'm just being told by my agent, aka Elf, and there will be more about that. Also, an interesting question about the sea clans. Are the sea eagle, whale, and salmon clans sea clans or open forest clans? And you've got some interesting sort of reasoning there. I was pretty sure I knew the answer to this, but I had to consult my own list of clans, I did this when I wrote Wolf Brother, and then I updated it for book 8. And in fact, all the ones you mentioned are in fact sea clans. So sea eagle, salmon, and whale, they are all sea clans. You could argue that salmon, because they spawn in the forest, in the rivers, are forest clans, but that's not the way the clans think. So they're sea clans. You also asked a question about names. Broadly, are the names inspired or taken from a particular culture? And you've noticed some similarities. Well, quite a lot of different cultures. I mean, as you know, all the white folks, Akumik, Inuktitut, Tanujak, those have a sort of Inuit flavour. So I've looked to Inuit names for those. For the mountain clans, I think I looked for the Sami. They've got a slightly different sound to them. But then other names I took from the Norse. Thiazi is a Norse name, Thiassi. Eostra is an Anglo-Saxon name. Seshru, I just sort of got those sounds from ancient Egypt. So I kind of plunder whatever sounds right, basically. So it's a good question. And then finally, you're asking in the far, it looks like we're going to the far north in the new books, but have we got any other exciting new locations? Wait and see. But yes, I think we have. And you say you're currently rereading the original series in preparation. What a good idea. Very thorough. Now we've got a lovely one. Andy has sent his 10-year-old daughter's letter, which we have been able to scan, I think. So we can see that. If not, yes, there we are. Lily's name, Lily's letter, brilliant and very legible writing, Lily. So thank you for that. You're just suggesting that the next story could be about Torek and Ren getting married, having children, but, and this is the story, all the clans are suffering from no meat, and Torek and Ren have to find out why. That is a rather good plot. You'll have to find out what happens in Viper's Daughter. Moving on to Isabella. Oh, this is lovely. This is the books have helped you moving to a foreign country and dealing with autism. You're not the first person who's told me that they've helped with autism or being on the spectrum, and thank you for sharing that. You've also made a really rather good picture. There we are. You say it's bad. I disagree. I think it's excellent. And you've asked whether I'll be going to the Edinburgh Festival. Well, we're waiting to see. I have to be invited to that, so we're waiting to see. But I think I'm almost certainly will be going to Edinburgh earlier in April because the wonderful bookshop Toppings, I think they're doing an event for Viper's Daughter. So watch the events. Generally are on my Facebook page, but or whatever it says, Facebook. But there will be a lead to it on my website. So yeah, I should be coming to Edinburgh. So that would be great. Now I hope I get your name right, Jorge. You're asking, will Viper's Daughter be translated in Spanish? I don't know. As yet not, because it depends on the Spanish publishers buying the rights, and they haven't yet. So if you want to write to the Spanish publishers and tell them you want to read it in Spanish, by all means do so. And similarly, Simona is asking on behalf of her son, Stefano, because you're trying to get hold of the books. I'm pretty sure, this is in Italy. I don't know how you would get hold of them. I mean, you'd have to try Amazon, I think, or write to the publishers, Mondadori. I think they're still Mondadori. So sorry, I can't help on that, but good luck. I hope you can get them. Lauren is 11, and I would like to call you about the Wolf Brother books. I really love them. Well, I'm glad you really love them. I'm afraid you can't call me if you mean telephone me, but you can certainly chat. And if you want to ask me questions, thank you for just making that comment, Lauren. That's great. And if you want to ask me any questions, that's wonderful. If you want me to answer any questions. Oliver has a lovely comment about film. You need to make the books. seeing as into a film, especially Outcast. That's the only one you've read. Well, you need to read the other books, Oliver. But I agree with you. I think you can see them as a movie. So can I. It would be great, wouldn't it? All I can tell you is that if there's definite information about that, you will hear it either on my website or on Michelle Paver Live. Now we have Rose Fisher. Ah, yes, Rose. Oh dear. Poor Rose left her boyfriend's personalized signed copy of Wolf Brother on the train. Oh, I do feel for you. Yes. The fact that he's still your boyfriend says a lot for both him and you. So that's good. And he's got the most amazing tattoo. It's really gorgeous of an arrow and a bow. Yeah. And you're asking me whether, we can get him, you're trying to replace this, basically. I'm afraid, because it would just open the floodgates. I can't, we can't do a sort of send it and, and I'll do it, I'll sign it especially for you. But do keep an eye on my Facebook page and on my website, which will direct you to the Facebook page, because with Viper's Daughter coming up, I am getting booked up for events, and there will be signings and things. They're not all, we haven't got all the details yet, but there will be this year, both for the hardback in April and then through the year, and for the paperback later on. So, but he's obviously a nice guy. He looks after rescue huskies, and he's still your boyfriend. He's forgiven you, so yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to sign it at some point. We have a lovely one from Ryan, who is a long-standing fan, Half-Blood Ryan. I'm so pleased, Ryan. You say at one point, being an adult is so fun. I'm delighted to hear you say that. And I'm glad because you won the copy, the proof. And I'm glad you enjoyed Viper's Daughter. And thank you, with your typical grace, for not including any spoilers in this. So thank you for that. Now we have one from James, who's really interested in bushcraft. He first read the books when he was younger, and now working in the Cairngorms, lucky you. And you're interested in hunter-gatherer knowledge. And where did I get this from? Well, there's two kind of sources, James. The first one is the sort of 21st century survival manuals, which have helped me a lot. For example, you've probably heard of Ray Mears. This is just one book that I've used quite a lot, as you can see. He's written loads of others. I'm just going to chuck that on the bed. This one's a useful one, the SAS survival book. It's quite good, and I've used that. It's by an ex-SAS chap, so he knows his onions. So there's the 21st century stuff, which is useful, but then to recreate Stone Age bushcraft, that's harder to give you guidance on, because what I tend to do is whenever I'm on in a foreign country doing research, and I go to local museums and things, I pick up whatever they've got, and it can be something small. Yeah, there we are. That was in Haida Gwaii, and it can be. This is something I picked up in a museum somewhere. Traditional dress by Adolf Hungry Wolf, so he knows what he's talking about. Then there's Royal British Columbia Museum, food plants of coastal First Peoples. I'm sorry, that's not going to help you that much, because they might not be available in the UK. There is, however, I think she might be more available. There's an author called Hilary Stewart, Stewart. She wrote an amazing book called Indian Fishing, which I got in, I think, Vancouver. And she's written several others. So she does a lot of research with First Nations, and has amazing line drawings. That's very useful. And nearer to home, if you are based in England, British Museum Publications has a really good book called Arctic Clothing, which does cover quite a lot of things. So I hope that helps a bit. But so it's a sort of complex amalgam of things that helps me recreate what I think was the way Thorax people survived. Moving right along, we have something from Connor, who I think has been in touch before. It's lovely to hear you again. Hope it's not too early to ask about Viper's Daughter and Wolf Brothers swag. What a lovely expression. Well, we've met in, haven't we? So that's, something you can get if you pre-order. I don't think we've got any other swag yet. I'll tell you when it would probably explode, that particular market, is when, or if there were a film, then there would be some merchandising coming about. Nice idea to put a book, to make a box for it, to put them all in. I think you'd have to customize that yourself, Connor. Sam, now we have, yes, he's asking, firstly, what do the Seal Clan tattoos look like? Well, in the books, it just says sort of wavy lines. And I've never really, in my own mind, formulated in too much detail. So I think you're free to do whatever you like on that one. Just sort of wavy blue lines on the arms for men and the calves for women. This is an interesting one. I also want to ask if the Sea Clans see the Sea Mother as a spirit or more like a physical being. That's a really profound question. I actually think if you asked someone in the Seal Clan, say, they would have a hard time answering that. And the reason I say this is that traditional people don't often see that much difference between the spirit and the physical being, or rather they appreciate that they can change. A spirit can take on physical form and then become spirit again. So I think they would probably say, well, she can be either. But a really interesting question. Andreas Lundqvist. Hello, Andreas. I think you've asked a few questions before. The question is what Mohegan meant when he said that Torek's father had managed to become a wolf for a few heartbeats. Was he a spirit walker? No, Torek's father wasn't a spirit walker. What Mohegan was saying was that, even a really good shaman, in fact, I think it might have been Tenris who said this, but anyway, even a really good mage can only sort of for a moment know what it's like to be another creature, whereas a spirit walker like Torek, he could really do it in full. So Torek's father was just a really good mage. The second thing you wanted to ask is what Ren's father was up to when he died. Well, he was seeking his mate. I don't want to say any more because I don't want to include a spoiler, but that's what he was doing. Lovely comment from Joanne here, who is a grandma as well as a reader. She tried to give Wolf Brother to her grandson, but he was understandably disturbed by the first chapter. And, some children are, so that I always tell older people, grandparents or parents, read the first chapter first and then you'll be able to judge. And so you rightly took it away from him, but then you read it and enjoyed it. I'm so glad you enjoyed Ian McKellen's narration. And thank you. And you said you were a forever fan, which is lovely. So I hope you enjoy Viper's Daughter. And you've also provided me with quite a nice lead-in to Claire's comment, which is, and this picks up on, remember when I said that, I was going to tell you about what I was doing just before going to Norway. You loved Chronicles of Ancient Darkness audiobooks read by Ian McKellen. And Ian, as some of you may have seen, but many of you won't know, has very kindly agreed and has read Viper's Daughter. And so 2 days before, I was due to go off, I spent 2 days in the recording studio with Ian, who just was right back in the world as if he'd never been away. It was quite extraordinary. So he's done an amazing job. And thank you, Ian. And it was just such a privilege, as always. So wonderful to be there. And we talked about wolves, which was also fun. And I was able to update him about Torek and how Torek the wolf is doing, which was lovely because he and Torek got on very well when we went to visit them. So lovely. And finally, we just have one more from Hannah, and just a lovely comment. You were 9 when you first read Wolf Brother. You'll be 23 when Viper's Daughter comes out. How lovely is that? Can't wait to find out what happens next. And you're keen on the backstory. Are we going to be finding out any more backstory? Well, we are going to be finding out some more backstory, but I am willing to bet that none of you will have guessed what the backstory is. So there we are. That's a little something about Viper's Daughter. So thank you for all those brilliant comments. I think that's all we've got time for. If we've got time, Elf, is there anything to catch up on live chat? Is there anything in particular that I need to answer? Or when is the next adult book in your schedule? That's when I've finished what I call book 8, which is the book after Viper's Daughter, and then the third of the Chronicles, the Wolf Brother sequels. And then I've got an idea floating around. So it'll be a few years, a couple of years maybe. But is the clan list updated for book 8? Does this mean we're getting new clans? Well, sort of. I think there may have been a mention of one of the clans in one of the previous books, but you didn't meet them. So yes. What will you write after Viper's Daughter? Yeah, well, I am now in the middle of writing book 8, which is called Skin Taker. I think I mentioned that on a previous program, so yes, Skin Taker. Have you ever read or looked up fan stories about the Viper's Daughter Chronicles series? Have I been inspired with an idea from a fan? This is going to sound very arrogant, but I've never really been inspired with an idea for a fan, probably because I've got my own ideas. And sometimes they've had an idea which has been very close to what I've been working on. That has happened quite spookily a few times. Will Torak have got married to Ren? Well, I don't think I'm going to tell you that. But I mean, they did. Yeah, I don't want to include spoilers in case anyone who hasn't read Ghost Hunter. But if you've read Ghost Hunter, you kind of know the answer to that. Will you be doing any book events in London? Yes, I will. I can't remember them at the moment, but I will be. Is there an email address or PO box that I can send my fan art? Yeah, on wolfbrother.com. That there is. That there'll be more next show. Actually, we haven't yet got fixed a date for the next show, but it will be sometime in March. And yes, we'll have more about that. Will you be coming up to Cumbria anytime? Cumbria, I'm going to be in that neck of the woods. I'm not sure if exactly Cumbria. Again, that there are some events being booked at the moment. Where would I get White Viper's Daughter when it comes? All good bookshops and Amazon and the Waterstones website. It'll be available on hardback and audio and ebook. So you shouldn't have any problem. Let me know if you have any problem. Is there an accurate quiz one could take to find out what clan they will be in? There is. Wolfbrother.com, I think, has the quiz up and running, which is rather a nicely designed quiz. So that's a good one. I just called my new kitten Torak. Brilliant. I love them so much. Can't wait to read Ghost Hunter. There you are. You see, I'm so glad I didn't have any spoilers there. When I heard about Viper's Daughter coming out, I cried. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm sorry I made you cry, but I'm not actually. I'm really glad. So I'm brilliant. I didn't mean I'm brilliant, but I'm glad. Your comment is brilliant. Hi, Michelle. Your books are awesome and they captured my imagination. Thank you for that. This is making my head get very big. What was the favourite book that you wrote? That's usually the one I've just written because, it is hard, but to write a book. But then when you've written it and it's fresh in your mind, it's great. So it's probably Viper's Daughter at the moment. Where would I send you an animation I made of Wolf Brother? Again, wolfbrother.com, and we're renovating it a bit, so there'll be more about that in March. What was your favorite thing to read when you were a child? Well, I loved myths and legends, and I also loved animal books, so Jack London, and the books about animals, basically. We're going to have to stop soon, but greetings from Slovenia. Wonderful. I love your stories. Thank you. That is great. And are we merging towards the end? Elf? I love your book so much that I just got a wolf tattoo. That's gorgeous. That is such a beautiful design, isn't it? And well, I hope you are pleased with that. Love all the research. That's what makes them so good. Thank you for that. I love the research too, but it's the really difficult thing is finding which bits to put in and how to use them in the story, because I've got tons of them. Now, this is, I think we'll have to make this one the final one. Although the trio were never really gone from the end of Ghost Hunter, from finishing that book to writing Viper's Daughter, how often did new stories or thoughts about the group come to your mind? Yeah, quite a lot actually, which is why I ended up writing the book, because I did keep thinking about them and in new situations. But it was just a question of getting the right situations that I thought, yes, this will make a book, or perhaps more than one. So that's one final one. Yes. Oh my goodness. You're pretty good. Yikes. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing those, Mike. That's amazing. Gosh, you are a talented lot, aren't you? Oh my goodness. Well, look, that is all I've got time for now. I'm loving these pictures, by the way, of all this snow and ice. I do want to thank you all for getting in touch and for watching, but also those of you who've posted comments and questions. If you want to, just one thing to say, you probably know this, I'm not on email, so I don't sort of answer individual comments. And if you want to invite me to an event, the best thing to do is contact my publisher's head of use, details on the website. But asking a question, go to the website, michellepaver.com, click on ask and fill in the form. I'll answer next time. I also want to thank, because I never do, my agent Peter, who's also known as the Elf, because he does everything. I just sit here and talk, but he does all the production design and flashes up things and gets scolded when he showed me a moose or something. So thank you for that, Elf. And finally, yes, and you can also, in between shows, keep up to date with me on Twitter at Michelle Paver, and on YouTube, and what's the other one? Instagram. Yes, I always forget that one, but I'm sure you lot don't. So there we are. Until the next time, goodbye. Thanks for watching and happy reading.